Hey everybody, Papa Wigs here with Wigs, and we're gonna go over our start sit for tomorrow. So I'm gonna jump right into it, Wigs. My first start is Zach Charbonnet, for Seattle. I think with him filling in for Walker, I think that he's been doing a nice job, and Seattle's actually got a nice matchup for him against Miami at home. So I think that he's got a good chance of having a nice game. So I definitely would start him. I don't think he's going to go crazy, but I could see him getting close to 100 yards, total, and maybe a touchdown. My next start is Zamir White from the Raiders. Listen, I know Zamir hasn't looked great the first few games, but I think if there's any game right now that he's going to break out in, it's going to be against the Panthers at home. So I just got this feeling that he's going to have a good game. I think it's going to be his first 100-yard game this year, uh, against the Panthers, and I could see him having a touchdown. My next guy here is Jamison Williams for the Lions. They play the Cardinals. It's going to be a tough game, on the road against the Cardinals. But I think that Williams is going to have another game this week. I think he's really proven that he's definitely worth a start every week, without even question right now until someone proves me wrong. So I think he could get, around 80 yards on maybe six receptions and a touchdown. My next guy is Demarcus Robinson. Listen, why not start Demarcus Robinson? He's about the only healthy receiver that the Rams have right now. So I think you got to start Robinson against the 49ers. They're going to be at home. They're going to have to throw most of the game. I think there's gonna be a heavy dose of Kyron in this game as well, but I can see Robinson having 80 to 90 yards on 5 to 7 receptions, for sure. I also think that Tyler Johnson was was a close one on this as well, so he might be another one to me. I think Tyler's a little bit more of a sleeper. And then my last start is Jaden Daniels for the Commanders. Listen, I know some people might be asking, well, why are you saying start Daniels? Shouldn't I start him every week? I think it's getting to the point, Wiggs. I don't know what you think, but it's getting to the point where you got to start Jaden every week. I just really like this matchup against the Bengals on the road. I think it's going to be another game. I think he's actually going to throw for over 300 yards in this game against the Bengals, and he's going to throw for at least 2 or 3 touchdowns.
I think 300 might be pushing it a little bit, especially with what he likes to do with his legs. But I mean, Jaden Daniels to me is a must start. I drafted him as my quarterback, and that's who I've been starting the first 2 weeks. So I kind of myself got not necessarily stuck, but is the best option on the board at the time for me. So moving on into mine, I have Juwan Jennings of the 49ers with Debo Samuel being out. I actually think he's going to step up big time here in this offense this week. He really seems to be more of Brock Purdy's target than Brandon Ayuk right now, so I could see Jennings going for like 7 or 8 receptions in this game and having over 100 yards. I think he's a little underrated at the moment, even as a wide receiver 3. He was putting up decent numbers there, so I think this will be kind of like one of those games throughout the year where he'll actually pop off until Debo comes back. I think he's going to be performing pretty well. Totally could see him having a touchdown here in this game as well. You're still without CMC. You're going to be without Debo, so we could maybe see him running the ball a few times on one of those sweeps that they like to do. Moving on from him, I got George Pickens there for the Steelers. I think Pickens and Fields, if Fields continues to start, which he should, will grow a great connection this year, and I think Pickens actually could have a pretty solid game here this week. Numbers haven't been too crazy, but they really haven't had to go crazy on offense so far in these first 2 weeks. and they faced some decent defenses so far. So I could see him having a little bit better of a week this week. I'm thinking like maybe 70, 80 yards and a touchdown here on like 6 or 7 receptions. Um, he hasn't gone crazy like I thought he would yet this year, but I could see him having quite a few pop-off games in the next few weeks. And then Brian Thomas here for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm still sold on him. I think he's the clear-cut one guy in this offense. Lawrence has to throw the ball to someone, and I just think Brian Thomas is going to have a great year. So for me, I'd personally start him at my flex if I had him on my team. Um, and he's a big body, so red zone targets will be nice for him. Demarcus Robinson, I agree with you. I mean, you got to throw the ball to someone. So I think with him and Tyler Johnson being the two healthiest guys and the guys who have been more involved, target one of those guys. You know, Tutu Atwell can maybe make an appearance in there. He had a few good games last year when Cup was hurt, so out of nowhere he could come out and have a good week. You never know. And then lastly, T. Higgins. This might be like the biggest hot take of the video, but for me, I don't think Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase really have that connection anymore. I don't even know if Joe is really looking his way as much as he used to, just with all the external stuff going on there with his contract and whatnot, and him probably not, or Chase probably not being back there next year. I think Higgins is going to benefit way more than Chase here in this offense. For me, I would start him at my flex. You know, it's a risky one, but I think it's a risk worth taking.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Well, let's go into sits. My first sit is Cortland Sutton from the Broncos. They're playing a tough Tampa Bay defense. Now, Tampa Bay has a couple of guys on their line that are going to be out, so I think the Broncos are going to actually try to pound the ball a little bit more as well. I kind of think that Javonte Williams, might have a decent game here because of the two guys that are out on defense for Tampa Bay. So my next sit is Christian Kirk. Listen, until you start seeing Kirk doing something in this Jacksonville offense, I'd look for a better option. That's just my opinion. They're playing against the Bills, defense. I don't see Kirk waking up in this game at all. And so until you see some life from him, I would strongly recommend you look at a different option. Leads me into my next sit, which is Najee Harris for the Steelers. I think Najee is going to struggle against the Chargers defense this week. I think this is a game where they're probably going to have to rely on Fields' arm to win. I don't see Harris having a great game here. I actually think that Jaylen Warren is going to be more active in the offense because they're going to have to pass more. So I would definitely look at someone else other than Harris. The next guy on my list is Ezekiel Elliott from the Cowboys. Listen, the Cowboys offense, their running backs on their offense have not been able to get it going. They're at home, but they're playing against the Ravens. I just don't see Elliott having any type of a game, and so if you have a better option, I would use them instead of Elliott until you can see that Elliott's going to turn things around. And then my last sit is Trevor Lawrence for the Jaguars. Lawrence to me is my opinion. I think the Jaguars made a huge mistake signing him to such a big contract when they did. I think he hasn't really proven that he's that he is deserving of that contract because he's just not consistent. He's playing against a tough Bills team on the road. I think he's going to struggle. I think he's going to throw more interceptions than touchdowns in this game. So if you have a better option for quarterback, I would definitely recommend you start them.
And you've been consistent with Lawrence too. I think he's been on there every single week for you so far. So sticking to it, and so far you've been right on him. So for me, I went with Amari Cooper. I know this is someone you probably would like to start at your flex just because of the years he's had in the past, but Watson's not looking good in the offense right now, and he's not really finding Cooper like he did last year. It's kind of sad to see because Cooper is such a great talent, and even at his old age, he's still pretty good. And Watson's missed him quite a bit in his first 2 games, so um, for me, I'd say bench Cooper until you see something out of that Browns offense that I originally thought was going to be really good going into this year, but they've really looked mediocre at best. Moving on from that, I have Michael Pittman. I don't know. This Colts offense to me is really hard to judge, especially with the receivers. I don't know if any of the receivers right now are worth starting just because Richardson does like to, extend plays or run the ball. He's good at running it, and he's missed quite a few passes to his receivers here in the first few weeks. So I'd sway away from any of the Colts receivers, at least for now. That could change here in the coming weeks, but it's been a really slow start for most of them outside of, 1 or 2 catches that went for 50 plus yards and a touchdown. So it hasn't been any consistent play there at receiver. Next up, I have J.K. Dobbins. Yes, I know he's popped off. He's got 270 total yards and 2 touchdowns, but he's splitting reps still with Gus Edwards. It's been pretty dead even with Dobbins popping off. They're playing a tough Pittsburgh defense. I don't see him doing what he's done in the first 2 weeks here. I think this is going to be a slow week for Dobbins.
I don't disagree with you, but man, that'd be a tough decision.
Well, I will say you could possibly start him at a flex, but I just think it's a lot better to just hopefully have a better option out on your starting lineup because it's a tough Pittsburgh defense. So, moving on, I got Zach Moss. I'm glad I didn't keep him because I know I was talking to you about keeping him in our league, but man, he's just been a disappointment so far. Only 108 total yards. We're talking 54 a game there and 1 touchdown. I don't know if it's all necessarily on him. This Bengals offense hasn't looked that great so far, but right now, just with how the Bengals offense looked, if I had him on my team, I'd be more comfortable just having him sit on my bench. I think him and someone like Jalen Warren have about the same worth right now going into this week, and I would say start Jalen Warren over Zach Moss at this point. But I think that'll change here in the coming weeks. I think this Bengals offense is just starting off really slow and still getting their foot in the ground. I think having T. Higgins back and healthy is going to help Zach Moss and a few others get open on this offense. So maybe next week my mind's changed. I just don't see any true impact coming out of Higgins being back this week. And lastly, I got Devin Singletary. I know he had a good week last week, and I wanted to say he's going to have another good week here, but he's playing the Browns defense, and again, it's another tough defense to be running the ball against, so I just see him struggling. I could see him more involved in the passing game, so maybe he picks up a lot of yards there in the passing game, but for me personally, I see Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson having the best performances in this game. I wouldn't doubt it if we saw Tracy come in a few times here as well on those receiving downs and catching the ball a little bit there for the Giants.
Yeah, I agree with you on Singletary there too. I think this might be a tough game for him, and I have a hunch they're gonna play from behind most of the game. So we'll see. We'll see on that one, but I definitely can see if you agree with you that if you have a better option, you should choose somebody else other than Singletary. So, well, there we go. Anything else you need to add, Wiggs?
Nope.
Well, there you go, everybody. There's our start sits for tomorrow. Check us out on Fantasy Fools PPR on YouTube. We're also out on Snapchat, X, TikTok, Instagram. Like, share, subscribe. If you got any questions, feel free to reach out and ask any questions. Any feedback's appreciated. We hope you guys are finding this content beneficial and using us as another resource for your fantasy football views and stuff. So with that, we'll see you next time.